hold more people than any commercial jet flying. Designers have spent billions. Now is the moment of truth. Will the world's biggest passenger airliner survive its maiden flight? Spring morning, clear skies and a light breeze over southwestern France. Crowding the fields that flank Toulouse International Airport, 40,000 spectators, backpackers, campers and journalists from around the world, all vying for the perfect spot to watch the maiden flight of the Airbus A380, the largest passenger plane ever built. It's 73 meters long, 7 stories tall at the tail, almost 80 meters from wingtip to wingtip, heavier, longer and taller than a 747, with 2 full levels of seating, enough to hold over 550 passengers. Getting this monster off the drawing board required new, super lightweight materials. 4 powerful new mega-sized engines, massive new factories across Europe, and a computerized flight control system more sophisticated than any other in commercial aviation. This moment is the biggest gamble that the company has ever taken. A $12 billion investment, the company's entire future, and the lives of future passengers all ride on the success of this historic test flight. Alongside the runway, a hush settles over the crowd as the megaplane comes into view. Gradually, it gathers speed, accelerating to reach its takeoff velocity of 269 kilometers per hour. Then, as it nears the end of the runway, the moment of truth. The massive nose tilts skyward. A sliver of daylight appears beneath the rear wheels, and the Airbus A380 takes to the sky for the very first time. The engineers and technicians in the crowd breathe a collective sigh of relief. Their baby is flying. The question now is, does anyone want a plane this big? Will the unprecedented size prove a boon, or a boondoggle? Is this Super Jumbo the future of commercial aviation? Or the biggest white elephant since Howard Hughes built the Spruce Goose? It all depends on whether Airbus can convince airlines that travelers will want to trust their fates to this flying cruise ship. No one yet knows the end of this story. But one thing is sure, any failure on this day, even a minor setback at this critical moment, would be a crushing and very public disaster for Airbus, with consequences that would reverberate around the world. The plane disappears from view. For the next 4 hours, while the flight crew puts this massive cruiser through its paces, the gathered crowd has little to do but wait, and perhaps reflect on the journey that brought them to this moment. The historic journey that began almost 40 years ago. 1969 was a year of technology firsts. That year saw the arrival of 2 exotic new airliners. Boeing rolled out the 747, the first double-decker passenger plane, larger and heavier than any other. Powered by 4 Pratt & Whitney JT9D engines, providing a total of 186,000 pounds of thrust, the plane had enough oomph to carry more than 400 passengers and their baggage, more than double the capacity of the 707. The plane wasn't an immediate hit, but eventually it took off. The Concorde is here. That same year, Aerospatiale and British Aircraft Corporation, the the precursor to Airbus, introduced the Concorde. While Boeing was bulking up, Europeans were getting small, but very fast. The Concorde traded capacity for speed. The plane carried only 128 passengers, but it could cruise at twice the speed of sound, cutting the trip from New York to London from almost 8 hours to just under 3.5. Both the 747 and the Concorde came to be the epitome of luxury in air travel. These two differing visions came to symbolize a fierce rivalry between American and European aerospace giants. A rivalry that's only intensified with time, even as the business of air travel has changed dramatically. The Concorde, after years of financial difficulties and a devastating crash in Paris, has been grounded. And the 747 is now an aging workhorse, noted less for style and more for the sheer number of passengers it can pack between its wings. What changed to turn air travel from a luxury to the airborne bus ride that it is today? Simple economics. In just a few short decades, the number of people traveling by air has tripled. Now, every day, hundreds of thousands of people pack into 70,000 flights, taking off and landing at more than 4,000 airports around the world. And those numbers are only going to get bigger. Much bigger. Industry analysts predict that the number of air travelers could double again by the year 2020. That is, if...
The new Trump presidency brings uncertainty over taxation policy, potential infrastructure spend, and regulation, amongst many other.
Anyone can figure out how to squeeze them into an already overcrowded system. Both Boeing and Airbus saw the writing on the wall in the 1990s. But the companies each took a very different bead on the problem. Boeing believed that one of the biggest increases in air travel would be point-to-point flights. Get on near your home, get off near your... Boeing put its muscle behind the 787 Dreamliner, mission plane, designed to carry an average of only 250 people. The A380, though, is an altogether different order of beast. It's designed for hub-to-hub travel. Passengers will board a small plane near their home, then connect at a major airport to a larger plane, travel halfway around the world, and get off at their final destination. It's a strategy specifically designed to serve the most rapidly expanding long-haul routes in and out of Asia, and to cater to customers who appreciate a bit of pampering. The plane's sheer size, with 2 passenger decks, is large enough for both standard seating, as well as more luxurious features, like a lounge, a high-end shop, 2 staircases, even a waterfall. It's a breathtaking dream. But no one knew if such a plane could be built. Some argue that such a craft would be far too heavy and expensive to be practical. But a tenacious and aptly named Airbus executive, Charles Champion, wouldn't take no for an answer. He encouraged his design team to think outside the box.
Yeah, well, there were lots of weird designs. Some looked at the double bubble.
One of their first ideas, the double bubble, a double-wide fuselage. It looked promising, but computer analysis showed that it would be far too heavy and not sufficiently aerodynamic. So Champion sent his team back to the drawing board, and eventually they came up with this history-making concept. A full-length, double-decker passenger cabin, with a third deck below for cargo. Space-wise, it's the equivalent of 2 complete wide-body cabins, one on top of the other. The new plan called for an aircraft only 2.5 meters longer than Boeing's 747. It was 15 meters wider and 5 meters taller. But when they ran the design figures through the computer, they had a shock. The plane was far too heavy.
horrid figures, saying, my God, this is the weight of the aircraft, doesn't work. And we came up with horrid figures, saying, my God, this is the weight of the aircraft, doesn't work. So what we did immediately at the launch of the program, or 2-3 months afterwards, we launched a very strong challenge on the weight.
The team set out to bring the base weight of the aircraft below 277 tons. That's only about 50% heavier than the 747. An ambitious goal for a plane designed to carry over 100 more passengers and their luggage halfway around the world. Unless Champion and his engineers could find the means to beat that target, the dream would die. Airbus engineers were faced with a design challenge that called for a lightweight plane carrying over 550 passengers at a lower cost per seat, not to mention quieter and less polluting than anything in the air. The design team knew they would have to rethink everything. They needed lighter material, more powerful engines, larger wings, even bigger and smarter factories. Every component would have to be scaled up from supersize to mega size. But even while the engineers were still scratching their heads over the details, the Airbus sales force was already hard at work, seducing customers with visions of the future. They created a full-sized interior mock-up that promised passengers in coach some relief from the grind of travel, with seats an inch wider than in other planes, and overhead bins 10% larger. Each plane can also feature a new interior illumination scheme to eliminate the upsetting effect created when flight attendants suddenly switch on overhead lights. The kinder, gentler system in the A380 mimics the gradual transition from day to night and back to daytime again. These and other innovations make the plane distinctive, but it's the promise of opulent luxury that really turns heads. To help build excitement, computer programmers constructed a virtual showroom where airlines can bring to life their wildest design fantasies.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. I'd like to welcome you on board this 3D tutorial for the A380 main deck door.
Using this 3D lab in cyberspace, airlines can experiment with cabin layouts, color schemes, and seating arrangements. Airbus has encouraged customers to think big. Bathrooms with showers, spacious lounge areas, restaurant bars, and even an in-flight salon. But until the planes are actually put into service, most airlines have chosen to keep their final designs as closely guarded as any other trade secret. But one early enthusiast, Richard Branson, maverick founder of Virgin Atlantic Airlines, couldn't restrain himself. He announced plans for a deluxe version of the A380, featuring a casino and double beds on the upper deck. At a press conference, he famously quipped, "So, alongside our casinos, you'll have at least 2 ways to get lucky on our flights." Of course, no dream could take flight until engineers came up with a way to lift all that weight. In late 2000, builders finally settled on a design. For power, they would buy engines built by Rolls-Royce, capable of providing 30% more thrust than the engines used on the 747. Each massive power plant costs